I'm not a mistake. It all makes sense. In a comic, you know how you can tell who the arch villain's going to be? He's the exact opposite of the hero. And most times they're friends like you and me. I should have known way back when. You know why, David? Because of the kids.
All right, welcome everybody to the Monthly Movie Dispatch. We get together every month and talk about what movies you've seen, what we recommend, and what to avoid. What separates us from the other 100,000 other movie-related shows is that we're high school friends and have been discussing movies for 15 years. We love talking film, and we'd be doing it even if no one was listening. So I'm Nick Moffat, and we've got a couple other guys here, three other guys here. We got Brandon Bowlby.
How's it going?
Derek Deal.
Hi.
And Shaun Bowlby.
That's me.
So, real quick, I wanted to give everybody a general update. So, we're finishing up season 2 of our show right now. This is our second full year of doing this podcast, and we're going to make some changes going forward. So, our next episode will be our, quote unquote, season finale episode, where we're going to go over our top 10 movies of the year. That's the episode that we love doing the most, where we go around in a circle and we each start at our number 10 and work down to our number 1. So that still will be our next episode, our final episode of the year. After that episode, we're going to change the format of the show. We're no longer going to be doing strict reviews. We're not going to be doing the short reviews too much anymore. We're not going to be doing the feature reviews as much. We're going to change it so that every month we're going to get together and we're going to be discussing our favorite movie of that month. Basically, it's going to be a 12-month-long conversation about our favorite movies of the year. So instead of talking about movies that we didn't really care about too much, we're going to be talking about our absolute favorites. And we'll also be looking at the box office and looking at the popular movies and maybe talk about why those were so popular that month. But really, it's going to be more focused on what our favorite and best movies of the year are in a 12-month-long format. So that's kind of a big change going forward, but I'm pretty excited about it. I hope you guys are excited about it.
I'm really excited for the new format because I'm really excited not to talk about movies I didn't like anymore, which was always a pain on our previous format. So yeah, I'm excited for the year to come. Also, we're going to fill some of the time that we're saving with other fun things, like you mentioned, the box office, Nick. Also, hopefully we'll have friends and guests call in with some good voicemail reviews of movies they've seen and what they thought of it throughout the months.
Maybe we could play some games or some competitions or something. I don't know. Just I think that we're just trying to change things up a little bit and really focus on what we liked and what we really want to recommend instead of doing just straight reviews. So
yeah, totally.
And I started a Twitter account, so we'll be back onto the social medias. So that'll be kind of fun. I don't know. I'm pretty excited about I'm pretty excited about the new year. So. But like I say though, this is our final episode of this season. So, I mean, before our top 10 episode, which is actually our final episode of the season. But this episode's back to normal. So we're going to go back into our best of the year update section, talking about movies that we've already talked about, but maybe some people haven't already seen them. So Brandon, you want to get started on this section?
So yeah, one movie you already reviewed, Nick, and I believe you loved it. I just saw was The Other Side of the Wind. This movie I saw with 3 other friends, and they all hated it. This is Orson Welles' final film from the 70s before he died, and they just finally got the rights to finish editing it and distribute it. And I saw it in theaters instead of on Netflix because it's also distributed on Netflix. Anyways.
I'm so jealous you got to see it in the theater, though. That's awesome.
Yeah, was it ever even released here in Seattle in theaters?
I don't think so.
So they hated it, and I was kind of embarrassed walking out of the movie because I loved it so much. This movie is nearly nonsense all the way through, and you're barely holding on with a thread of a storyline as you're piecing together who all these people are. But it is one of the most fast-paced, vibrant, wild films I've seen, and this will be definitely on my top 10. I'm really excited.
Wow.
A spoiler alert. Jeez.
Fuck. Okay, I won't. I'll cut that.
No, don't cut it. It's funny. But no, that's great. I'm glad you liked it so much. That movie is The Other Side of the Wind, and it's on Netflix right now. Me and Brandon both loved it. Shaun, you had a best of the year update?
Yeah, I recently saw way overdue, about a full year overdue, is Paddington 2. I completely missed the first Paddington. I only watched that recently as well. And finally got around to watching the best reviewed movie on Rotten Tomatoes of 2018. It has over 200 reviews. I forget what the actual number at this point is, but it has over 200 critic reviews, and it still has 100%.
Wow.
This movie is undislikable. And I know there are some people who... the user reviews aren't also 100%, but I'm sorry, I don't believe you. If you say you didn't like the movie, I don't believe you. It's such a joyous occasion. Actually, Kelly described it as kind of almost a cross between Wes Anderson and what was the other one? Oh shoot.
Orson Welles.
Don't worry.
No.
Steven Spielberg.
Wes Anderson and God.
Stanley Kubrick.
No.
Is Kelly there?
Robert Rodriguez.
Oh, I'll cut that
Quentin Tarantino. None of those guys?
No.
It's like
Martin
Wes Anderson film.
Scorsese. Toy Story.
We'll just cut that
Pixar.
That bit out.
So Shaun liked Paddington 2, apparently.
Yeah, Paddington 2. It's an undislikable movie. Okay. I promise that if you see the movie, you will like it. And if you don't like it, then I don't believe you. So
Shaun, what happens if I see the movie and dislike it? Because I saw the first one and didn't like it.
I don't believe
so
you.
nothing, you just won't... Okay, so you just won't
I just don't believe you.
I'm just not going to see it. I'm just not going to see it because I saw the first one and I didn't like it.
That's your outness.
Yeah, I'm just not going to see it. And whatever. So...
Yeah.
And then you can believe me or not believe me, but...
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So that's Paddington 2.
So yeah, Paddington 2, that's available pretty much everywhere. You can get the Redbox or download it or, yeah. So I saw a few movies this month. I was really catching up on a lot of movies I missed from the theaters. I saw a bunch, but I'll talk about just a few that I really, really liked. The Old Man the Gun was one that I absolutely loved. It was directed by David Lowery and starred Robert Redford. It was his final movie that he's ever going to be in. It was just so charming and simple and just wonderful. It was a bank robbery movie, but it was just about the slow, nice process of it. And it just was about a guy who just loved robbing banks. I don't know. I talked about it more. I have a YouTube show reviewing movies with Baby Lane. So you can check it out on there, but I just wanted to drop that movie again, The Old Man the Gun.
Link in the show notes.
Yeah, that movie is so charming and wonderful. Love it. I finally...
That was funny. I was like, I swear we reviewed this on the last episode, Nick. But no, it was your reviews with Baby Lane.
Right. That's just my show where I just talk about movies with a baby, and if you don't care about the movie, you can still look at my cute baby. So... yeah, that's The Old Man the Gun. I got it from the Redbox. I finally got around to seeing Won't You Be My Neighbor, the Mr. Rogers documentary, which was amazing. You just keep hearing all this hype about this movie, how it just paints Mr. Rogers like the saint that he is. He's just one of the most wonderful people that has ever lived, and the documentary really captures the spirit of what he was trying to do. It was really, really nice. So Shaun wanted me to bring up First Man, because it's one of Shaun's top movies of the year, I assume. And I thought half of it was brilliant. The parts that were in I can't say shuttle because it's not a shuttle. Shaun, what do you call it?
It's on the Apollo missions or the Gemini missions. I mean, they flew on several spaceships.
Okay, so it was like
spacecraft.
So spaceships, all the parts where they're flying, whether it be in airplanes or spaceships, are fantastic. Like, they're so intense and gritty and like unforgiving and like scary, you know, really shows the perils of space travel. Like, you know, I don't even care. I'm never going to space. Like, if it becomes like possible for, you know, humans to travel, like, you know, I'll take a cruise instead, you know, just space travel's not boring. It's pretty intense. But turns out the other half of First Man, where they're on Earth, is very boring. And I didn't like pretty much anything that happened between Ryan Gosling and his family, and I thought it was just like super slow. And yeah, they couldn't figure out a way to tell the story of this quiet and stoic guy in an engaging or compelling way. So I didn't like the other half of First Man. So I didn't even hate it. I thought half of it was amazing. But the final movie I wanted to bring up was Blindspotting. This is a indie movie that Brandon saw like over the summer. I had a bunch of friends up here see it over the summer, and I just missed it. And it's about these two friends who grew up in Oakland, and Oakland's going through a lot of changes. It's being gentrified. A lot of hipsters are coming in, and this guy just got out of prison, and he's trying to stay. He's on probation. He's trying to, you know, follow his probation rules, and I'm minor spoilers, but it happens in the first like 10 minutes of the movie. He like sees another black guy get shot on the streets, and he kind of has to like live with that the whole movie. And like, amazingly, this movie is so like up tempo and really fun to watch, except it has this kind of tension that rides over the whole thing, where you're rooting for him to get through the day, but you know, he might not. And that's what it feels like.
Yeah, I also saw this movie recently, and I very much loved it. It's there's so much personality in the movie, and it's just such a cool movie. It almost felt like a musical. Did anyone else get that sense of the movie? It's
really interesting you would say that, but there was only like that one musical bit like at the end, though.
Well, right? There was the one at the big one at the end, but throughout the entire movie, it was like, so the main character was struggling to kind of put words together and make these rhymes, and I think at the very beginning of the movie, he started kind of just rhyming about things that he was seeing and touching, and
right.
And then like as the movie kind of unfolded, he started more inner monologuing through this little kind of, I don't know, beat poetry almost, or
right. It was like hip hop. He was like rapping.
Yeah, it was like hip hop, but there wasn't any music or anything. There wasn't a beat or anything, but he was kind of just freestyling. And it kind of, to me, it came across a little bit like musical. The way that he would talk or emote about what he was feeling was really fun way to kind of tell the story.
I'm really glad you're saying all this, honestly, like because the ending actually has a lot of criticism. You know, I think, you know, a lot of people had problems with the ending, especially people I've talked to, and I like defending the ending because I think it came together and it was powerful, and they needed to have something big like that happen at the ending. And what you're saying is a big defense of it, whether or not you're doing that or not. Like, you're basically saying it fits in with the style of the whole movie.
Yeah, and I completely think it does.
Maybe the people that didn't like it just weren't paying attention to that.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I kind of see the ending as like slight fiction almost inside this musical head of his. And I don't think it was actually happening.
Oh, yeah.
Just like a normal musical.
Oh, wow.
So that's kind of how I coped with the weirdness of it and learned to love it.
We're towing the line of spoilers here, so let's move on to the next thing. But that movie's Blindspotting. I really recommend this movie to people. I don't know about you, Shaun, but like, this is gonna be up there for me. This was a really powerful movie.
Yeah.
So I got that on the Red Box. Shaun, where did you watch that movie?
I rented it from Netflix got my Blu-ray in the mail.
Oh, wow, the Blu-ray of
snail
Blindspotting
mail.
coming in the mail.
Yep.
That's so cool. I didn't
So
mean,
to early 2000s.
yeah, I didn't mean to. That sounded sarcastic, and I really like it that you still get those in the mail. Like Cow does that too. It's pretty cool. I kind of want to, but
Yeah.
that is an extra like $10 a month or something. I don't know. Okay, so the other big thing in terms of news that happened this month was that the Academy Award nominations came out, and that's always a big thing for film fans. You know, the Academy Award nominations coming out, and then everyone gets to look at them and argue about them, and then say, "Nah, these are dumb. They don't mean anything." But really, every single year we talk about them, we watch them. They mean something. But you know, I personally love the nominations more than who wins or loses. I think just the scope of what's nominated is in some ways more interesting than who actually politics their way into getting the trophy. But you know, we all have our own like ups and downs with our feelings of the awards, I assume. But yeah, I think it's worthwhile for us to have a little conversation about it. First, I'm just curious, where you guys at? Like, there were 8 movies that are nominated for Best Picture. How many have you seen?
I saw 7 movies.
7.
The only one I didn't see was Bohemian Rhapsody.
I've seen every film that's not a short film on the whole list.
Oh, wow. Brandon.
I didn't even go that far. Oh, jeez, Brandon.
Oh, sorry, never mind. There's a documentary that's unavailable right now.
Oh.
That jihadist documentary you can't get anywhere.
Oh.
You just mean like out of all the nominations across all the categories, you've seen every film?
Yeah.
Wow. I'm impressed and kind of speechless. I think that maybe we should just turn off this episode and
Go watch every movie.
maybe we should just turn it off.
Turn it into the Brandon cast.
Yeah, maybe the 3 of us should just leave and Brandon could just tell us about all the movies he's seen. No, seriously, that's awesome. Derek, what about you?
Let's see, out of Best Picture, I've seen 1, 2, 3, 4 of them.
Yeah, I've seen 6 out of 8. So the only ones I haven't seen are Bohemian Rhapsody and Green Book. So what were you happy to see? Like, what were some awards where you were like, oh, those are some cool. I was happy to see those nominations. Shaun, do you have any?
Well, there's a few that weren't necessarily unexpected, but I was so glad when, because Olivia Colman won for the Golden Globes, and I assumed that she would also be nominated. But I'm just so happy she's getting the credit that she deserves for that movie. She was absolutely incredible, and I think it's I don't know. I know Brandon used to make fun of me for liking this show, but she was one of the cast members of That Mitchell and Webb Look. And she was one of my favorite side characters in Sir Digby Chicken Caesar.
I've literally never heard of those things.
Yeah, she's he's got jibs homeless lady in Sir Digby Chicken Caesar. No one has any idea what I'm talking about.
That's a throwback.
Hey, so
It's a throwback, but it's a great sketch comedy show, and she was in it, and I've been a fan of her ever since that show, but I never knew how good of an actress she was until this movie. So I'm really glad that she's getting it.
I think that whole category, the lead actress category, is like pretty cool. Like all 5 of them, it's like, some people say Glenn Close will win because she's never won before and she's had such a long storied career, but it's cool seeing all 5 of them in there. So, Derek, I know you weren't the biggest fan of these nominations. Do you want to elaborate? Like, what didn't you like about them?
I don't know. It's just a weird year, I feel like. I'm just, like, not super excited about, mostly in the Best Picture category. I'm just, like, not, there's nothing that I'm, like, super rooting for, I guess. So it just feels kind of weird to me. I don't know. Like, all of my top 10 none of my top 10 movies are, like, anywhere near these lists, except for maybe, like, Spider-Man. But, so it's just kind of a weird, it's just a weird year for me.
Spider-Man might win.
Yeah, I could.
Especially compared to last year, Derek, when, like, their 9 best pictures they nominated were all just like super solid films that really deserve the
It's not
recognition.
these ones are bad. It's just
I mean, there's a
weird.
few bad ones in here.
For
I mean,
Best
like we
Picture.
alluded to Vice earlier. Like, none of us really liked Vice that much.
Yeah. I'm curious, Derek, are you excited about Black Panther, like being the first Marvel movie? Does that kind of excite you, or I guess I don't remember exactly what you thought about Black Panther. Were you?
I mean, it's cool that it got nominated. I don't think it should be in the Best Picture category, but
Yeah,
it's kind of silly.
I'm glad you
but-
said that.
yeah,
It's like The Dark Knight wasn't even nominated, or the myriad, to me,
yeah.
of better,
or wasn't it?
not for Best Picture, Sean,
Oh.
or the myriad of other better Marvel like superhero films that have come
Right.
out.
I
this
don't know,
decade.
though,
For
guys,
me,
like-
I don't think Black Panther is even
Well,
in the top
like-
5.
like Nick
so.
said,
I
I
think
don't
that
know.
Black Panther had some. I think Black Panther got in there because it has some like textual, like in its movie has some undertones that elevate it higher than some Marvel movies. Like, it wasn't my favorite, but I could see like that there are things in the movie that people could casually watch, like non-Marvel fans could watch and say, oh, that has cultural impact and meaning other than like just being a silly comic book movie. I think that's why
I mean,
got
culturally,
Yeah, I completely agree.
For sure.
I mean, it's definitely one of. It's not necessarily my favorite Marvel movie, but it's definitely like one of the best. Like, for me, no question. It's like the
upper tier Marvel movies.
yeah. I guess just Ryan Coogler was did such a good job with it on so many levels, and it. I think it was just one of the best movies, and definitely the most best picture worthy Marvel movie that I've ever seen.
Yeah, I guess it's just like in the context of other movies that aren't on this list, it just seems silly that it is on this list, but yeah.
I guess I do agree with that. Like, but there's other, but that's not even close to the worst
For sure.
nominee on the list for me. Like, I didn't see Bohemian Rhapsody, but that one for me, I was never excited about. But Green Book and Vice seems very strange to me, especially since like Vice and Bohemian Rhapsody just never connected with critics at all, or not much. Like, they both suffered critically.
Yeah, totally. That's why I was surprised that they got nominated.
Bohemian Rhapsody made like almost $800 million, I think, worldwide.
Jeez.
There's a few other things, lower down that I think are pretty special and unique surprises. One is for the best director category is Cold War. Pawlowski, who also did this amazing film that won Best Foreign Film, Ida, that came out 2013. That's really unique to, Alfonso Cuarón is like, Hollywood royalty, everyone knows his name, but to have another foreign film in the director category is really rare.
Cold War is nowhere near Best Picture either, so it's kind of interesting that movie that didn't get in the Best Picture, like didn't get in the top 8, is it just kind of it puts an exclamation mark next to that movie of like there's something interesting about that movie.
It's an amazing film. And the same goes with the cinematography category. Like, this is unheard of. 3 of the 5 best cinematography films are foreign films. And you would never see that before. We have Roma, and then again, Cold War, and another film I just saw last night, Never Look Away. And so that's pretty rare.
Yeah, anyway, so those are our brief thoughts about the Academy Awards. I think we should move on to something else, since we could just pick apart this all day, like what we liked and what we didn't like, and I don't know. I think there's a lot to like and not like. Like, there's a lot of surprises, some snubs, some of it's just boring. So,
Won't You Be My Neighbor?
yeah, Won't You Be My Neighbor didn't get Best Documentary. Like, what is that?
Jesus Christ.
What is that?
Yeah.
RGB.
Is there, and like, I'm so curious, is there any chance that Spider-Man wins?
Oh, I think it has a
animated?
very
Yeah.
good chance of winning.
Yeah.
The Ballad of Buster Scruggs got a bunch of love, which is interesting.
So weird.
Yeah, there's
Yeah, it's a lot of Netflix love,
yeah,
actually.
which could bode well for Roma. And I think that there isn't a clear favorite right now. I think that's another thing that I find interesting about this year is that though, like there's certainly ones that I'm rooting for, like The Favorite, Black Klansman, like, you know, but like I don't know. I really have no idea what the favorite to win is, and that's kind of cool. I don't know if we're gonna do this or not, but we talked about maybe having a competition off screen. Like, it's a little early to actually, like, you know, predict. When I say off screen, I mean off microphone. But like, we talked about maybe, you know, putting our predictions together and having a little like competition similar to some movie wager where, you know, whoever wins the most, everyone else needs to watch a movie of theirs.
Yeah, when we come back in March episode, let's announce that winner.
Yeah, that'd be fun. I'm always looking for a chance to get you guys to watch High and Low.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. And I've always been waiting to get you guys to watch Yoga Hoosers.
Oh my god, why haven't I watched Yoga Hoosers yet?
I've seen it, Nick.
Yeah, Brandon saw it before everyone else.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well,
What's a Yoga Hoser?
I can't believe you just brought up that movie.
okay. So the Academy Awards. Let's move on to our next subject. We're going to do some of short reviews. So to kick it off, I wanted to bring up real quick. I wanted to bring up the movie The House That Jack Built. It's the new Lars von Trier movie, and Lars von Trier is surrounded by controversy, and he's the kind of filmmaker. He's famous for making brutally horrifying, like hard to watch, nihilistic movies that are usually very violent or abusive towards women, and this movie has all of that. You know, it's about this serial killer played by Matt Dillon who he kills women. That's what he does, and the movie is like split up between the different killings that he goes through, and it's a pretty interesting movie. Like when it first got screened at cons, like a bunch of people walked out, but then when it was over, it got a standing ovation. Some people think it's brilliant. Other people think it's just self-indulgent crap. And I don't know. I think that either point is kind of fair, whether or not you kind of dig what he's doing. And I watched this movie. I rented it from Amazon. There is an unrated cut that was only screened in the United States one day, and that was in December in theaters. But I don't think any of us saw that. And
Yeah, I'm so sad.
yeah, I'm just waiting for it to come out. And honestly, like, this movie's not on DVD or Blu-ray yet either. And so, okay, I'll just be straight. I really enjoyed this movie, and my only problem is I watched it really late at night, and I was really tired. And then, like, you know, once you finish a rental, it kind of goes away. So I only had that one chance to watch it, and I honestly would maybe buy this movie and watch it again if it was out on Blu-ray or DVD, but I don't know.
And especially extended.
Yeah, but I have no idea when. Like, this movie, the pace was really quick. You know, it's over 2 hours long, but it moves, and it's really funny, and it wasn't as violent as its reputation was, and it had a crazy ending. You know, it was batshit crazy. So I don't know. I bought into it. I really liked this movie. Brandon, what did you think?
Yeah. I probably enjoyed this movie more than I loved it. Like you said, the pacing's really good. And honestly, the first 2 deaths out of the 6 segments, I was so excited and on board for what he was putting together. Like, those first 2 segments are like clever. The way they work out for the main character, they're like funny. The theater was cracking up. They're horrifying and disturbing at the same time. And I feel like he didn't follow through with that quality or those themes or those emotions in his movie through the rest of the skits, especially I think it was the third one in the shooting range was by far the weakest and like held on to none of those things he introduced in the first 2. And then it meandered a little bit after that. But like, I think both reactions at cons are pretty valid. Like, this movie's great and also not so great. But for Lars von Trier, I think I came out of this, liking it a lot more than I thought I would.
Yeah, I mean, it was even though he was killing women, which is objectively upsetting. It wasn't as violent, and it wasn't as much of a horror movie as I was expecting either. It wasn't as traumatizing, I'll say. Whereas some of his other films are certainly traumatizing.
Did the end land for you?
Yeah. That's part of the thing is I want to rewatch it. Like the ending was just crazy, and I think I know what he was trying to do.
Crazy.
Yeah, no, like crazy. And I'd like to rewatch it and kind of like get another take of it, because I kind of want to watch it with other people too. Like I watched it by myself, like at 1:00 in the morning, everyone else is asleep. I don't know. I want to watch it and talk about it more, but I don't know when it's coming out on Blu-ray. But anyway, that's The House That Jack Built. So you can rent that on Vudu or Amazon if you can stomach it. Now we're gonna go, Brandon. You've got like a foreign film selection here. You're gonna talk about some of these foreign films that you've seen,
right? A lot of these are up for Oscars.
I think all of these that you put down here were nominated for foreign film, right?
Yeah, except for Border, but we'll get to that. So Cold War, like we just said, got nominated for director, cinematographer, best foreign film. This movie got so much buzz in the later part of the year, and I went and saw it. And just like his movie before, Ada, this film is beautiful and amazing. And in a lot of ways, it tells an even more like interesting story. It's this love story between these two characters in the backdrop of, the Cold War and trying to escape Russia. And it kind of takes place in between like Western Europe and Eastern Europe over a few decades between these two characters. So it's a really interesting movie. And the music in it is like gorgeous. They're musicians, the characters. And basically like every shot is it is like a beautiful painting. The aspect ratio is, cropped in like 4:3. It's not full widescreen. And the whole movie is in black and white too. And what they do with the visuals with that is really beautiful. So I can't wait for you guys to see this movie. I think if you sneak it in before your top 10 lists, I think it's got potential for you guys.
So that's 2 black and white movies nominated for cinematography.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
There's so many shots that are like passing through my head right now that I just like remember. They were so vivid and beautiful. Yeah, so that's Cold War.
Yeah, I've been wanting to see Cold War. It's on my list. I just don't I don't think it's come to Seattle yet, and
that's like the only other foreign film that's really on my radar right now.
Yeah.
Well, Shaun, good news. Brandon has a couple more.
I got more.
Get on your radar.
So the next film I'm going to talk about is Capernaum. This is one of the hardest movies. This is the hardest movie to watch for me this year. I'm going to read a little synopsis for this because I think it's almost comical how devastating this movie is. It goes, a 12-year-old boy scrambling to survive on the streets of Beirut, sues his parents for having brought him into such an unjust world, where being a refugee with no documents means that your rights can easily be denied. So the main character of this movie is a 12-year-old boy, and it's basically like just complete poverty and one child trying to survive for 2.5 hours. Kind of think like the beginning of Lion, if you ever saw that film, except for there's no light at the end of the tunnel throughout the entirety of this movie. And it gets brutal and twisted and fucked up. But the way I believe this like woman had like 12 hours of footage of this boy, like I was reading on Wikipedia, of her going through and like shooting him. And they eventually can, cut it down to a cohesive movie, but you really feel you're just like living in reality. They don't juice it up with drama. You're just like, you're living in his situation. So if you're interested in that, go see Capernaum.
Oh, yeah, that sounds devastating. I'll tell you what, Brandon, I'm not going to see that movie. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I still haven't forgiven you for your number one movie from last year. Loveless. Yeah, Loveless was your number one movie from last year, and it was so bleak. Like,
it's different than Loveless because you almost feel like you're watching a documentary, and so it's like you don't feel like you're being held hostage because you're feeling like this is real. This is real people. Like, I need to watch this because I'm learning and I'm gaining knowledge about this world and what can happen in countries like this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
All right, so the next movie is actually a MoviePass produced film called Border. I don't know what, it came out months and months ago. I don't know why it was still in theaters in New York, but I'm so glad I saw it. I recommend not watching a trailer for this, not reading anything about it. This movie is so strange, and that's the best word for it. It is like scene to scene, and where this movie goes is unlike anything you've ever seen before. It's been years and years since I've seen it. Like, this feels like a movie we would watch in high school and just like, with Garrett and just totally like geek out about of where this movie like ends up at the end of the film. I think you guys will love this movie, and it is just twisted and a strange ride, but it's so well made that like I had my hand over my mouth and I was just like grinning from ear to ear at the twistedness that this movie goes to.
Where did that movie, or where's that from?
Border is from, I think, Sweden, and it got nominated for Best Makeup, shockingly. Like, that's a really weird one-off category.
Can you say, like, is it comedy or drama?
No, it's not a comedy. It's a sci-fi fantasy drama. I don't know. It's so weird.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, just I just clicked it open on Letterboxd. I won't read anything about it, but just
You're
like
not supposed to.
The top image looks like they're in, I don't know, looks like there's a prison guard or something. I don't know, but yeah, I mean, you sold me on this one. I'll add this one to my watch list. I'm adding it right now.
Yeah, you sold me on it.
That one sounds pretty cool.
More so than Capernaum.
All right, and the last foreign film, which has gotten all the rage this year, is Shoplifters, and it deserves everything people have been saying about it. Shaun, you kind of like stole some of my words about Paddington too, but in the complete opposite of Capernaum, this is one of the best films of the year, and it is, for the most part, so joyous in your experience with this family. And you live with this cast of characters and them hanging out, enjoying each other's company, bonding, growing up together, and taking care of each other. And it's so refreshing to see like such a positive drama like this that is also so well crafted. Like, filmmakers often tend to just go to super dark places in order to like give you quality filmmaking, or to think that that's what can give like the most quality filmmaking. But this like kind of shows the exact opposite for most of this movie's runtime. And it just feels really special that way. I know you saw it too, Shaun.
Yeah, it's I totally agree. It, like, for most of the movie, there's just so much love and care, caring within this family, and you just get such a warm feeling spending time with them. I don't really want to even say much about it, because even like talking about the basics of the family dynamic is almost a spoiler, but
right, yeah.
I guess I'll say that this movie is it's a movie that definitely would have been on my if you weren't doing this foreign films thing, it would be on my best of year update. It's a movie that for me, like, it hit all the notes of, not only was it an extremely satisfying movie to sit and watch, but also, like, after the movie was over, I spent so much time going over it in my head and just like just going over it emotionally and like what it meant and what all the different characters meant and how they kind of related to each other. Because I think there's a lot of depth to that.
Yeah, it doesn't explain everything. And even when people are monologuing towards the climax, it's still, there's so many pieces to fit together and to think about later on. And it's really good to bounce ideas back and forth.
Yeah, I actually, late one night, I think I went to bed late and I was just laying in bed and I was thinking about the movie. And like, I went off the deep end with this movie. And I really want to talk to you about like this crazy theory I have about it.
All right.
But yeah, I won't get into that here. But there's like, yeah, I thought about this movie a lot, and it was just like, it was such a great like experience watching and like experience to think about it and like let it resonate within my brain afterwards. So
there's this specific shot where fireworks are going off in the main city. And they're kind of, they're living in more of a shack on the outskirts. And there's the shot above the like shack that they're in looking straight down. You slowly see each character looking upwards at the sky peering through the trees, trying to see the light of the fireworks. And they're like laughing and excited about it, even in the situation they're in. Mm-hmm. And that scene just blew me away so much. And I think like encapsulates so much about what I love on this film.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Shoplifters.
So those are Brandon's foreign films.
I mean, honestly, that movie sounds great. Shoplifters. It's still in theaters now. So I know
it's playing in Seattle, a couple places.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah. You and Derek need a little field trip.
Yeah. So the last thing I want to talk about before we go to our featured reviews is that I don't know if you guys know, but in 2018 there was a skateboarding trilogy that came out. I mean, unofficial skateboarding trilogy, but basically there's three like pretty, I don't want to say big because a couple of them are pretty small, but there are three acclaimed skateboarding movies that came out. And me and Brandon both saw all of them. I know we've talked about mid-90s in the past, like the three of you guys saw mid-90s and brought it up. Minding the Gap is the other one, where that's a documentary. And then the last one is Skate Kitchen, which is almost like a quasi-documentary that takes place in New York City. That's when it was directed by the same lady who did this documentary called the Wolf Pack, which takes place in New York City.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh,
yeah. So
that's cool.
Yeah, so she did that documentary, and then she was she bumped into these girls on the subway that are in Skate Kitchen, and she thought they were so interesting that she wrote a script and decided to make a movie about them. So I mean, I loved Skate Kitchen. I thought it had great skating and really authentic vibes, and I just thought it'd be fun real quick to talk about to do a rank off, so Brandon says his top three and I say, or not top three, there's only three, but Brandon orders his three and I order my three. Brandon, do you want to go first?
Oh man. Okay.
Are you not ready?
No, I know, but I think we're going to be exact opposite. Mid-90s, Minding the Gap, Skate Kitchen.
Mid-90s, that number one, and then Minding the Gap, and then Skate Kitchen?
Yeah, Minding the Gap close second, though. It's hard to compare dramas to documentaries, but yeah, that would be my order.
Yeah, my order would be Skate Kitchen number one, Minding the Gap at number two, and like clearly mid-90s at number three.
Oh!
Obviously.
Wow.
I thought mid-90s was definitely the weakest.
Hands down.
Well, I mean, they were pretty close. Question. Honestly, like I think I gave mid-90s like a 3.5, and then I gave the other two 4. So it's not like it's not like we're splitting big hairs here. But
one interesting thing you can take like from all three of these coming out this year is like perhaps we're finally getting 90s kids like us of age to where they can get funding to make feature films, and they're old enough to be able to put themselves into directing movies. And, here we are not directing movies, but these guys were us in the 90s skating and being inspired by these stories and now making the movies.
The Tony Hawk generation.
Yeah, exactly.
They're coming of age.
Yeah.
We're finally seeing like 90 stories told with honesty of kids who actually lived through it.
Yeah. So moving on to the feature reviews. The first movie we're going to talk about is If Beale Street Could Talk. It's the new film by Barry Jenkins. Real quick to do the plot summary. A woman in Harlem embraces her pregnancy while she and her family struggle to prove her fiancé innocent of a crime. So, this movie, I think, was acclaimed. I think a lot of people, a lot of critics really liked it, but it wasn't really nominated for too many Academy Awards. So there seems to be maybe a disconnect with audiences. But, Shaun, me and you saw this together. What were your thoughts on If Beale Street Could Talk?
Yeah, it's to me, it was just a beautiful movie from beginning to end. And it's like at its core, it's about these two people's love for each other and how strong that love is. And it's about I think it's about how that love affects other people in their lives, both like their family and also kind of random people that they encounter throughout their lives. It's just like there's a lot of long takes, long shots of just close-ups of these two people's face looking into each other's eyes so lovingly that you just fall in love with these people, and you fall in love with their love for each other. And it's just like it's a slow movie, and it lets you just experience the moment and experience the emotions of the moment.
It's pretty simple.
I thought it was it's a fairly simple movie, and I loved how it built the plot slowly.
The plot, in my opinion, plays out very differently than what usually happens in movies. It's a very slow movie with a simple plot. They're just trying to prove his innocence when he's wrongly arrested, and it's like they don't have much of a shot. Like there's a thread of chance of them proving him right, proving him innocent, and they're just holding on to it and pursuing it. But the movie isn't even really about that. That's not even really the plot of the movie. It's more about the deep love they have for each other. Mm-hmm. I feel like you mentioned that they did a lot of long shots, those close-ups of their faces. Like it wasn't just the two main characters. They had the mom with close-ups, and they had
that's right.
They did a lot of really intense close-ups in this movie, and I thought that's where the movie really shined, was how powerful they just put you in their faces, and the acting was so strong. You just felt it. So, Brandon, that being said, I know you didn't like it as much.
Yeah, I had some issues with this movie. I did not like it as much as you guys did, and a lot of people loved it, and I came away a little bit down on it. I guess one of the major reasons for me was kind of the pivotal scene in the first third that happens in the apartment with both families, and the big fight that ensues. I kind of, once that scene hit and I couldn't get over the way it resonated with me, it kind of affected a lot else that happened in the movie. I guess to go into detail, that fight was like really, really unbelievable and unrealistic. And I could just feel the writer typing out all these like amazingly eloquent long slams of rants that he could have his characters like unnaturally spew out in moments of hatred at each other. And it went on and on and on. And I don't think it worked, or at least for me, it did not work. And I couldn't see these words coming out of anybody's mouth in this situation. And the anger that ensued between these two families was so strong. I mean, they were like beating each other. And so like after that scene ended, I was just like, what am I watching? Like, this is no longer real in any way, shape, or form. And it kind of spun out of control in my head from there.
Yeah, that's kind of strange to me because I mean, I didn't pick up on that. I mean, it was big acting, but to me, like, it was almost like a play. You know, it's like that the whole movie is kind of like a play, where there's limited sets, just actors acting really powerfully, and I mean, I didn't feel that. I bought into. I thought that scene was really great, actually.
Yeah, I really liked it too. I loved how it. Well, I can kind of see where you're coming from, Brandon. It was a lot of really extreme stuff happening very quickly, but what I really liked about it was how it alluded to such a deep history between these two families. Like, and I don't know their backstory. I know that the two kids grew up together. But I don't know how they knew each other or how the families knew each other or really any of that. But like watching that scene, it's just you get this sense of such a deep history and so much complex emotions between the two families, and like even the two dads, how they're kind of almost buddy over there in the corner, while the moms and the sisters are just like hammering it out. I really respected how he was able to give that sense of a past without saying anything specific about it. Mm-hmm. That was interesting.
Yeah, I think that would probably be the only way that could work, is if you kind of created a outside like piece of fiction to give them reasons to be treating each other like that and saying those words to each other in that moment. And then the last thing, I guess, is kind of the flip side of what you guys have been ranting about. The like long close-up shots for me didn't tell me enough in this slow-paced movie that these two characters were in love, and I wanted to see them doing things that people in love with each other do instead of just staring into each other's eyes for so many scenes. Like, I wanted to see them like laugh and talk and enjoy each other's company and the reasons why they're so strong and compatible. And I feel like the movie skipped over that and kind of just hoped that you believed they loved each other, as opposed to, for me, actually getting me invested in why these characters were so good with each other.
I guess what I will say about that is that I think a lot of the times people talk a lot about like Romeo and Juliet, how they just don't believe that these two kids are that in love with each other. Right. But I think in movies like that, or not a movie, but like that, a play like that, as well as like a lot of musicals, what they're trying to do is that even though you just have like maybe a 3-minute song about these two characters in love, or in Romeo and Juliet, you have these long like soliloquies. Like the goal isn't to necessarily show them falling in love and to make you believe in their love through their experiences of it, but rather just like through the art of, like in Romeo and Juliet, the art of the dialogue, the soliloquies, and the beauty of the language, and then like in musicals, the beauty of the songs and the emotions that the song invokes. You're supposed to experience their love kind of viscerally. And I think in this movie, that's what he was
cinematography.
That's what he was doing. Yeah, like these beautifully composed and lit and
beautiful
shot.
Characters.
Yeah, and beautiful characters.
Faces.
Yeah, just like the most beautiful faces. Like you're just supposed to, and it wasn't just those close-ups. That was certainly a big part of it. But like, them playing together in the tub, and like there was a lot of just beautiful moments that the movie just through the beauty of the artistic the film as a medium, you are meant to viscerally experience their love for each other.
That's interesting.
And like
that's what I like. See what you're talking about.
The movie.
So it's kind of interesting. Like, I'm kind of with you, Shaun. Like, we saw it together. We had a nice talk about it afterward. But like, it's a beautiful movie, but I don't need to talk about it for an hour.
Yeah,
It didn't necessarily like
for sure.
and it, like Barry Jenkins was the director. His last movie was Moonlight. That was his first movie he ever did. Was this as good as Moonlight? No, it wasn't anywhere. It wasn't anywhere near Moonlight. I can't help but like take a look at what happened 2 years ago. It's just kind of interesting because the two biggest movies from 2 years ago, it was Moonlight and La La Land. So Damien Chazelle directed La La Land, and both of those guys 2 years later, Barry Jenkins and Damien Chazelle, they put out their follow-up movie. Both of them were critically acclaimed, but then didn't really catch on with wider audiences, and neither of them got nominated for Best Picture, where a lot of people thought and hoped that they would get nominated for Best Picture.
Yeah, I didn't notice that. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's just kind of interesting. I don't know what happened, but yeah, neither First Man or If Beale Street Could Talk really picked up.
I would say First Man is definitely his better film. I would say for me, that's his best film, but I would definitely say it was better than La La Land, whereas If Beale Street Could Talk probably doesn't live up to Moonlight. So,
okay, so that was If Beale Street Could Talk. Me and Shaun really liked it. Brandon thought it was just okay. So we're gonna go on to our next review of Glass. So this review, we're going to have spoilers, but we're going to talk about it without spoilers first, and then we'll break into the spoilers. So this is the new film by M. Night Shyamalan. I'm going to read the plot summary real quick. In a series of escalating encounters, security guard David Dunn used his supernatural abilities to track down Kevin Wendell Crumb, a disturbed man who has 24 personalities. Meanwhile, the shadowy presence of Elijah Price emerges as an orchestrator who holds secrets critical to both men. So, wait, Derek, you still here?
Yeah, I'm still here. How's it going, guys?
So, do you want to set the table for Glass? I feel like you're the biggest M. Night Shyamalan fan out of all of us. Although I think we all like M. Night. I think that you're probably the biggest. Do you want to set the table?
Sure. I mean, my feelings, I think, are maybe it's the same with a lot of people, but my feelings about the movie are rather complicated, just because it is an M. Night movie. But in general, I really enjoyed the movie. I thought it was a unexpected and cool finale to his little comic trilogy that he created here. And
The Railway Line 177 trilogy.
Just say the Unbreakable trilogy is the easiest.
Let's back it up for a second. So, Unbreakable came out in the year 2000.
Right.
And Unbreakable was it like tricked you. It was kind of like the twist was that you weren't really watching a thriller that you would expect by the same guy who directed The Sixth Sense. You were really watching a comic book origin story. Years later, in 2017?
2016.
Split comes out, which had the big twist that not only is this like supernatural, but it's in the same universe as Unbreakable. So you didn't know, again, which movie you were watching until it was over.
That was like, again, you didn't realize you were watching a supervillain origin story as opposed to the first.
Right.
You know.
And that it directly fit in with Unbreakable. And so this movie is like the first one where it's out in the open that you're watching a comic book movie. You're watching Glass, the final of the trilogy that M. Night had secretly put together.
Yeah. So I mean, like, there's a lot of it's a tough movie, I think, for everyone who's a fan of like Unbreakable and stuff, because we're talking about like 18 years later. Like, you can see so many videos online of like Patton Oswalt pitched his own like sequel years ago, and like people have been thinking up of what this movie would look like for almost 20 years. So it's like whatever people have put into their heads, I think it's just like it's tough to meet those standards, you know, and what M. Night was then and what he is now, and what his strengths are and stuff, because I think a lot of people were expecting that we were going to get the big fight movie, and the one thing I've always like thought of in my head is that like M. Night can't deliver that movie. Like there's no way he doesn't. That's not what he does. He doesn't make.
He tried twice, and they were his two worst movies.
Right. Like that's just not what he does. He can't do it. And I think personally, I think he knew that. And I feel like he played to his strengths in this movie a lot. But I think that was a big disappointment for a lot of people. And I think they advertised it like it was the big like Clash of the Titans like action movie. Like if you watch the trailer, it's like 90% fighting. But
Right.
The movie's very different than that. And so, personally, though, I kind of I figured that would be the case, so it wasn't a shock when what happens in the movie unfolds. But overall, the movie on its own, I think, is actually I like it a lot. I think the critics and everyone were very, very harsh on it. I think he does some really great stuff in the movie. I think it's full of the stuff that people don't like about M. Night, but they're kind of things that I'm enjoying about him nowadays. I feel like he's kind of embraced his cheesiness and some of his heavy-handed dialogue, and it's just like stuff that to me kind of comes with the territory at this point, and it doesn't really seem to have an overall negative effect on anything. It's just how he is, and I tend to like that stuff, and I think this movie has a lot of that, and I think that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way as well.
There's a scene in particular that I want to bring up during spoilers that is like it's like the most M. Night of that cheesy kind of stuff that you're talking about,
Right.
but like. It's like, did you love it or did you hate it? And like, I
Right.
could see people going either way. I'm sure we'll be split on this
Right.
when I bring it up.
I think a couple things that worked really well is I loved the opening to this movie. Like, I wasn't quite sure how he was gonna like work us into the story and bring back David Dunn and stuff like that. But the opening scene specifically, I thought was just like the perfect way. It was like, okay, I'm so in. Like, like that's exactly what I needed to just get me on board with wherever you're going with this. And I really like the soundtrack a lot. It's got a really cool score, especially in the opening.
I really like the setup too.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought that's what you're talking about. I thought the setup of this movie was so clever.
Yeah.
And I was so invested in where the direction that the characters are in. Like, you see Bruce Willis at the end of Split, but you don't know really where they're at, where he's at, or anything about him.
Right.
And where they pick up with him, I think it's just at such an interesting place, and it made me invested right away.
For sure.
My experience watching this movie was like I was really excited, especially I think I saw the first trailer, and it was so good, and I was really excited, and I was like, is it M. Night Shyamalan gonna do it? Is he gonna pull this off? And then like the reviews started coming in, and I was kind of like, oh no, oh please M. Night, don't do your thing. And I was really worried that like, I like what you say, he doesn't do big movies well. Like all of his good movies are very small, very quiet. Like even Split was just like one location, or essentially mainly one location through the entire movie, and it's just very simple. It's not like a lot of complex plot lines or anything like that. And I was just like, oh, I guess he got too complicated and he just couldn't pull it off. But then I went into the movie almost like expecting it to be kind of a mess, like plot wise and from the beginning. And I agree. Like he played to his strengths in this movie. Maybe he was completely aware. Maybe he's self-aware now, and he just kind of knows that he can't pull off that big kind of movie. And so he tried to keep this one small and contained as well. But it just like, I was right off the bat, I was like, oh, this is like a good, well put together movie. Like this is working. Everything is working really well. And I even thought I thought it was working really well as like revisiting this character from 20 years ago. Like where they pick up with him was really cool. And I even loved that they had his son back. I haven't seen him in anything since Unbreakable, or that I'm aware of, and like I was like, oh yeah, that's him, and that's awesome. He's back, and he's looking good, and like he's doing a good job. Like I was really happy to see him.
Somehow the poor man's Joel, what's his name from Sixth Sense? Joel Osment.
Haley Joel Osment.
Haley Joel Osment.
Yeah.
Somehow the poor man's Haley Joel Osment grew up better looking than Haley Joel Osment.
But yeah, he was really good, and he was I liked all that build up. I guess without getting into spoilers, I thought the end of the movie he did kind of start to get a little complicated, and it plot-wise fell apart a little bit for me, and as a conclusion to the trilogy was a little dissatisfying, but I would very much like to talk about it. But one more thing I want to say is I really liked the action in this movie. I thought it was really creative and all really well done.
Is there a gasp?
Did Brandon not like the action?
That's the first thing I was going to say was the opposite.
Oh god.
Oh wow.
Did Brandon vomit? No, I was pleasantly surprised. I thought, it wasn't like what you expect from a superhero movie these days. It wasn't like really fast paced punch, kick, and superpower, it was just like, it was kind of slower, and it gave you more of a sense of the real strength of these characters, and it was all about visually representing how strong these characters were, and the superpowers wasn't in how fast they were. It's about how much beating that they can take and how much muscle they have, and so I liked the action.
And Brandon didn't like the action.
So first off, I enjoyed my time watching this movie. I think this is a weird mixed bag for me of like really cringy M. Night Shyamalan plot points and scripting that he's so well known for, but also like really great choices that he also made that I think really saved him through good chunks of this film. I think I'm more fascinated by the choices he made than overall I think that the movie is quality. So I'm like in a really weird spot with this movie.
I think that's that's a really good distinction, because I think honestly, like I'm probably closer to the same boat. Like I'm more intrigued and excited by the decisions that he made and where he decided to take it, as opposed to the actual quality of how those turned out and stuff.
Yeah. And I got a lot of nits to pick, like in super detail throughout different scenes of this movie. But at the same time, I'm like also kind of proud of him for, I was a huge, Signs was one of the movies that got me into movies along with The Fellowship of the Ring. I was obsessed with M. Night Shyamalan. So I'm also like really proud of him for making a lot of the smart choices he did at the same time.
Yeah.
Let's just go spoilers now. We can talk about some of these things in more in depth. So, spoilers at this point. It's an M. Night movie. You'll get spoiled. Stop listening if you don't want to be spoiled. Spoilers. All right, guys. What's up?
Brandon, what did you think of the scene where it's like the close-up shot of Elijah? And this is like a perfect example of what I liked about the action in this movie. Elijah rolling away in that hallway while James McAvoy is out of focus in the background.
Oh yeah, that was great.
Like just killing all those. That was great. All those guards.
It's like down to earth punch, regular man punch, and then right before it cuts, you get this giant slam, and then CGI body flies up against the wall, and then the shot like instantly cuts to a new scene. That was great. That was really well done.
Yeah. What struck me with the action was how realistic all of it looked, and like, you know, they eventually give it away that of why it looked that way, but like I kept thinking these look like security camera like shots, like this looks like brutally like real, him like flipping over the car and them like just punching each other. I just kept being like, this just like, and him running like when the beast like ran across the field on all fours. It was just like, wow, that just like looks crazy cool. And I mean, it turns out that was actually like, you know, in story, the security camera footage that we were watching. I thought that was really clever. And, you know, I think this goes back to what Derek was first alluding to in the beginning, was how, you know, he played to his strengths by, like, they set up it being like a movie where they'd be battling, it'd be a big action movie, and they have a big fight between Bruce Willis and James McAvoy very close to the beginning, and then the movie just like splits them apart, and it's a talking movie. Like, they get sent to the hospital, and it's like, it's all psychology. It's all just like talking about what's going on. It's just like doctor meetings and stuff. It like totally changes from that like comic book thing to a more like focused on character, focused on insides, focused on what people are thinking and doing, rather than the big action stuff, which I thought was clever and pretty awesome, honestly.
I was one thing that popped in my head is the security guards, as far as the action goes, or the SWAT team when they come out with their giant like shields, and they come up and try to split up the two people as they're fighting. And what M. Night Shyamalan has them do is just like nothing. Like, their plan is just to kind of like bump into them for a long time and do nothing else.
I don't know what that was all about. I don't really.
I was like,
understand.
what are they doing? They're just like have their shields and they're kind of just like nudging them for a bit, and then all of a sudden, like, Bruce Willis just kind of like puts out his arms and corrals them for what's probably like 30 seconds in real time, slowly walking them backwards across the field and into a locker. And when none of them just like turned around and kind of like, you know, like moved out of the way for a second, like they're walking at a very slow pace. You can back up and not get pushed into this this like locker.
Yeah.
And like, I was just looking at it visually. I was like, this is so weird. Like, who was responsible for staging this? I don't know what's happening. That's like an image that's embedded in my head of like bad M. Night Shyamalan filmmaking.
I didn't even catch that at all.
It's bad M. Night. But I know they weren't. It turned out that they weren't SWAT team people, but that's not how you take down. If you need to apprehend a real person, like, there's a ton of way, like, that if you need to apprehend a person who will not be apprehended, like, use like sandbag bullets or whatever you call them, or you use like pepper spray, or you use like, you know, there's a ton of methods that the police have to apprehend people, but like running in with a few shields and bumping into them is not one of them. And I know that they weren't really SWAT team people. They were a part of this organization. I assumed all of those SWAT people there were a part of this weird organization, but
I don't know if they were, honestly.
No, they definitely insinuate that they were. They show at least two of them with the symbol on their wrist.
Oh, that's why there wasn't that many cops. All right, it's just clicking. So those weren't real cops, and that's why there wasn't that's why there was only 6 of them, because they didn't like call the cops for like tons of backup.
Right. That was like a lot of people's problems. Like, why didn't anyone just why didn't any of like the kid or like the girl or the mom just like call the cops?
Oh yeah, there's still the kid and the mom.
Or why
and the
didn't
girl,
the cops
though.
like come when all this crazy shit's going on? But
There was one small moment that I thought was amazing with M. Night Shyamalan's like maybe action or horror directing, was the creepy security guard almost dropping the flashlight on Glass's knee.
that was great.
That little scene was
yeah.
so terrifying. And the way he edited it and shot it was really amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, so the things I think that worked really well for me is overall, I liked everywhere the movie was going. I liked all the ideas, not necessarily the execution of them, but it was just so refreshing to see this movie go in this completely different direction than every other superhero movie goes. And while it honestly wasn't like super satisfying while it was happening, afterwards looking back, like it just felt so refreshing for it to just do something completely different in a complete direction that we never would have expected it to go. You know, I'm talking about with pretty much all our heroes disappearing. Yeah. And like, it's just such a shocking, and like, I saw it with my mom, you know, and she tapping on my shoulder, like, is this really happening, or is this actually happening right now? It's like, yeah, I guess that's where this movie's going.
Super weird scene, like our hero that we saw in a film like 20 years ago die in a puddle. You know, like not satisfying. I agree.
Yeah,
but,
definitely not conventional.
But like, I don't think any of their deaths.
I mean,
are
the puddle was
satisfying.
bad.
They're all.
It wasn't supposed to
but
be though.
The gunshot was good, and the like Mr. Glass getting punched in the chest by, the other guy I thought was great.
I thought they were.
I don't
all
think it was supposed
equal.
to though.
I thought, yeah, they were all supposed to be underwhelming and unsatisfying. Like,
I just thought he had strength.
Who?
Like he could have pushed himself out of the puddle with his hands, or like broken the guy's arm that was holding him down, because that's his power.
Well, the point
strength.
is,
water was his weakness.
Like,
though.
it's.
I understand. I liked that they all died. I was just wished that his death hadn't made sense, for like his power couldn't have saved him.
Well, his power doesn't.
Water
work,
was his weakness.
is the whole thing. It's like water.
I guess, like,
literally
yeah, that was the thing.
kills him.
I guess I didn't
He doesn't even have
understand
to drown in it.
his.
Really?
I didn't understand his power then. Like, I thought he was just vulnerable to water, like it was his Achilles heel. I didn't realize that water actually takes his power
what
away.
I always assumed was, well, he's obviously can't breathe underwater. It's just in any scenario, even if it doesn't hurt him, he still can't breathe underwater. So he still dies in water.
Yeah, that's true.
So I assume that's not the thing that kills him, is not being able to breathe underwater. So I assume that water is like his kryptonite. It literally cripples him to where he can't
like
do anything.
It scares him,
Yeah.
like because of what happened when he was a kid.
Maybe. Like, I think that's part of what the movie kind of proposes, is like how much of this is in his head, how much is like, I don't think he doesn't answer any of that. It's all just questions you're supposed to have when it's over, You're not supposed to know the answers to any of them. But
Yeah, when I was rewatching Unbreakable, I was like, Mr. Glass, you got to calm down about this water thing. Like, everyone dies in water. Why? Like, he had like 3 monologues about water.
right.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why M. Night was really honing like that in.
Right.
Was because it's more than just he drowns in water.
Right.
I think he doesn't he say something along the lines of, it's your kryptonite.
Yeah.
Probably. Something really straightforward like that.
I guess I just didn't understand the rules until I was actually watching them in that puddle scene. And then, like, in the crucial scene, I was understanding the rules.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think he intentionally doesn't go too far into that stuff, because, and this is something I think doesn't work quite as well, but I like the idea of it. I think he thought he had written this well enough that we would buy into some of the stuff that the psychiatrist was pushing forward. And I think that was his intention, was that we were supposed to at least start to question what we thought about these characters.
Oh, I definitely was. I thought that was...
Okay, I never
thought
questioned
that worked
it.
out.
Not once. But
I mean...
just because we have so much proof already of their powers. So it's like, were you telling me that what you showed us was incorrect already? Or... because I definitely saw him walk on like walls and ceilings and stuff. So I know he has powers.
Totally. Totally. And like,
Yeah.
that's why I thought was good about it, though. It's like, that's why I thought the movie was good. Because, like, that's what they were trying to get the characters to do, and I was right there with the characters. I was like, I don't know. I saw them do some fucking crazy things. I'm pretty sure that James McAvoy was climbing on the wall. Like, I'm pretty sure that wasn't just like a fantasy.
Right.
But even James McAvoy was like, I'm not even sure if that really happened. So I'm like, I don't know. Like, she's kind of convincing, right? Like,
I was half convinced too. It was kind of interesting. I didn't go full.
Yeah, I kind of was too.
But I was like questioning if that was the twist.
Right.
What did you guys think of the side character? Like we already talked about the son a little bit, but what did you think of like his role and Anna Taylor-Joy's role, and then the mom's role?
I thought that was another really smart decision, was having one character from each of the three main characters come back in to help. It was like they each had their counterpart.
I thought that was the messiest part of the movie, though, too. Like, I personally, against what you guys said, I hated the son so much. Both the actor and like his role, like it was like everything he did in the movie was cringy to me.
You didn't like how he got a little goofy and funny?
No, I didn't make any. It was so out of character to me. I don't know, like here that even the first scene when he's working with his dad just felt so. It felt weird to me. Like he's like making up weird names for the walks they go on, and like. I didn't know what was he talking about? It was just so weird. It just felt so forced and like unnatural. The things he was saying, the way he was acting. It was the whole thing with the son was so strange to me. And
I mean, I really liked him in the beginning. I actually don't know what you're talking about.
What does he call their walks?
I thought he did a pretty good job.
They were being silly with each other, and it was a little weird, but I bought it.
Right, but I guess the reason why I didn't buy it is because we have no history of them being silly together. So that's like a complete 180.
Like, I didn't buy why Anna Taylor-Joy all of a sudden was like this character that had some kind of power over James McAvoy, and
was that not
my
in
girlfriend?
Split?
Well,
yeah, I feel like that was in Split.
Yeah, it was.
I skipped over Split.
But like, why was her touch able to bring Kevin back to the light? Like, I don't know. It was just like,
was there scenes in Split between her and Kevin specifically enjoying each other?
Well, she brings Kevin forward for the first time.
She had 30 seconds of screen time with Kevin. Kevin was only in the light for like 20 or 30 seconds.
So I have a quick theory on this. I think, and this is the part where I think that ideas and stuff are a lot better than the execution, because it feels like they have great chemistry. It feels like there's a lot of story there. They just don't show us any of it. And I know M. Night said like his first cut of this movie was 3.5 hours long. So I bet that there was a lot of that in there, and it all got cut. And this is what we're left with. It's just kind of this shell of a story, and we don't really quite understand what's going on there.
Glass director's cut.
Yeah.
Hashtag it right now.
I mean, the cool thing, just closing this up, I think the cool thing to come away from this is I think I like what M. Night is doing again. I've been a fan of his last 3 movies. I think it's cool that he's producing them himself. He's coming up with his own, he's financing them himself. And I think it's clearly with this and Split, like they're both very financially successful movies. And so it's really cool for him. And I like that he's doing stuff that he likes, and I like that he's doing stuff that I like. And so I'm really excited I think I'm all in on him again. And I mean, he'll always have that, notch in his armor. It'll always be a worry that someday he's going to break down and do some weird stuff again. But I really like where he's heading, and I'm definitely excited for the next movie he does.
Yeah, so I just looked it up. The budget for this movie was only $20 million. Yeah. So like, to his credit, like it looked really good for $20 million. And then it's so far made $165 million.
God, so good.
So real quick, Brandon wants to do a power ranking of them. Derek, do you want to do yours first?
Yeah, it's been so I haven't even rewatched Split. I've only seen it in theaters, but it just from talking to you guys about Unbreakable and stuff, I think Split's gonna be my number one, and then Unbreakable, and then Glass.
Awesome. Wow. I had no idea.
Okay, Brandon.
I'm going to have to go Unbreakable, Split, Glass.
Shaun.
I'm going to agree with Derek. Split, Unbreakable, Glass.
Cool. I think I might agree with Brandon. Unbreakable, Split, Glass. But part of me wanted to say Glass first, just to throw the wrench in the works.
Overall, I think
Yeah.
sounds like all of us enjoyed the movie, right?
Yeah, for
It's
sure.
it's a satisfying conclusion, I think, to the trilogy too.
I honestly think I might like it more with a rewatch too.
Yeah.
I could see myself liking this more over time. I think it'll be an easy movie to go back to.
Oh, for sure.
Just sit around and enjoy.
That plays a big part in like how I rate movies on Letterboxd too. Is like going back to them because I was right there with you guys putting it at 3.5, but I brought it back to 4 because I was like, I'm gonna watch this movie so many times, and there's a lot of movies that I give like 4 or 5 stars that I'm never gonna watch again. But I think that's to a lot of its credit is how fun it is. Like I'm definitely gonna go back to it many times. So.
Anyway, so yeah, that was Glass. It's in theaters now. So let's wrap this show up. Do you guys want to plug anything online, Derek?
Just Letterboxd at Chicken Tech.
Brandon?
A Letterbox, Beb, B-E-B.
And Shaun?
I'm on Letterboxd, Bulbinator.
And I'm Nick, and you can find me on Letterboxd at Mothman. Also, we have a Twitter account now for our podcast, which I'm running the Twitter account, so it's at MMD_Nick. And also, I'm doing movie reviews with my baby, so movies with Baby Lane. So check those out, and you can find those on YouTube. So anyway, if you're enjoying our show, subscribe, like us, comment.
Review us on iTunes.
Yeah. So, thanks for listening, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.